Welcome to Deepening the Conversation, our segment of Conversation with Asu, a weekly diary on life and politics. You're well aware that last week the Supreme Court of Nigeria put an end to all the issues arising from the presidential election. And this is what has caught the interest of our award-winning columnists, most widely syndicated and well-read columnists in Nigeria, as we should. Azu is here with me to deepen the conversation and broaden perspectives on some of the issues he has written. And today's column is titled Atiku, Obi, and the Road to Kilimanjaro. You're welcome to the show, Azu.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. We are not in Kilimanjaro, so let me start this way. Why do politicians have this tendency to want to turn their electoral defeats into national tragedies? Why do you think so?
Well, you are correct to say that in the physical sense, yes, we are not in Kilimanjaro in Tanzania. Africa's highest peak mountain of about 20,000 feet, I suppose. But unfortunately, Nigeria's political contestations have, in a way, sort of resembled a climb to that mountain top. And to your question as to why politicians, why it always ends up this way, I think it's a question for politicians to answer. You find, as I also mentioned in my column, that both in the run-up to elections and election day and post-election day, they always have, and this is something that's had a very, very long history. The people who lose not always very willing, for reasons sometimes not to accept defeat. And sometimes also people who will not gracious enough to reach out to those who have lost. I think the exception to this would be President. No, President. Well, good luck, Jonathan, in terms of conceding defeat, but also in terms of interrogating the process that brought him to power, even though it was an official rebellion in 2007. So those are the two notable exceptions. So let me just dial back a bit to the first question we asked about his framing of his defeat as a national tragedy. I mean, if you have lost elections 6 times, it's only human for you to, at a press conference such as we had the last time, so you know what, folks, I really feel deeply saddened by the loss this time. But nevertheless, we are not satisfied by these aspects of the judgment, and you move on. But to come and pretend as if Nigerians are or Nigeria is a much bigger loser than it is, I think he was not. He was just being economical with the truth.
All right. As a quick follow up on this, 25% FCT controversy. Do you think the lawyers or the counsels didn't actually advise their clients that was a known issue from the beginning?
I don't know. That would be, I suppose, a matter for the counsel and their clients to examine. But my layman's understanding of the provision of the Constitution in respect of the place of Abuja in terms of election is basically that Abuja is like any other state when it comes to elections. I do not think that the writers of the Constitution intended for Abuja to have a super vote. This is a federation, and a fundamental principle of a federation is the equality of citizens. All right, it's not a kingdom where you have a king or a queen and the subjects. So it's one man, one vote, whether you are president or you are, whoever you are, and therefore I do not conceive at all that the writers of the Constitution intended that Abuja voters should have casting votes in elections. Even in the US, where you have all sorts of federational audits, as I said, that does not apply. And in fact, the Electoral College, the whole concept of the Electoral College in the US is to equalize, the states so that the larger states like California and the much smaller states would sort of equalize the right when it comes to voting.
I was particularly interested in your reference to the election petitions industry. We have 18 political parties, 36 states, one presidential election, and we had the Guardian reported about 436 petitions. Do you think this industry will be going anywhere anytime soon?
Unfortunately, I do not think so. I thought at a point, at the time Jega was leaving and the new INEC chairman, Professor
Yeah, Yakub.
yeah, Yakub was coming in, that was receding, and I thought that was a good thing, so that elections, not that there won't be disputes arising from elections, but a substantial part of the elections will be decided fair and square at the polls. But it does seem like we are back at the bad spot where there's a ballooning of petitions. And neither the politicians, especially the politicians, neither the politicians or the council participants, especially the parties, have helped the cause. There was a time when, for the presidential election, for example, the first and last court of instance was the Supreme Court. And then suddenly we had, well, you had to go first to presidential tribunal and then the Supreme Court. And you can say the same thing for the other levels of election. And it's getting bigger and bigger, and you need to have an idea of the kinds of monies that these politicians pay the lawyers just to, you just wonder, what is this all about? Is it really about service? So I don't know whether we are going to have a time when
Is it about justice or is it about business?
honestly, I really don't know. I'm really thoroughly confused, but I think this got to be, and Justice, if the former Justice of the Supreme Court, in his book Reminiscences, Justice Akinola had actually referred to this in his book, that he thought it was a clear and present danger which we need to do something about. Unfortunately, I don't think.
I particularly mentioned that petition should be disposed before the swearing in takes place. And won't that create a vacuum whereby, given the nature of politicians to be desperate for power?
Politicians everywhere are desperate for power. I don't think Nigerian politicians are peculiar, and as I said, I mean, we all saw that in the US elections with Donald Trump, you know. But the difference, I guess, in many other parts of the world is that there are systems that hold politicians accountable.
Institutions are strong.
Institutions are strong that hold them accountable. I do not see the reason why we cannot have that. Because the danger in swearing in presidents or swearing in politicians into office before disputes regarding the election have been settled. So once they assume office, they assume the paraphernalia of power, and automatically the contestant or petitioner is itself.
All right. And finally, you said if there were a law compelling INEC to, to transmit results of elections electronically, perhaps they would have been compelled to do so. But against the reality on ground that there are no infrastructure across the country where majority of the polling booths are, don't you think you would have tied INEC's hands behind its back to insist on electronic transmission of results?
Well, I don't know that would be the case because given the quantum of money that was earmarked for the elections, INEC did not say it could not discharge its obligations. So it would not be for me to offer excuse for why it didn't do what it promised it was going to do. So, I mean, if we all agree that the less of human interference we have in the system, the better for everyone, then we have got to make it work.
That is where we bring it to a close. If you want to get the gist of what we've been talking about, you can visit our blog azuishekoni.com, where you find articles, you find videos, you find publications by Azu, you find books to which Azu has contributed, and those he has authored himself. If you're a student, you're a young person, and you want to learn, you want to be broad-minded and well-informed on national issues, visit our blog. You can like and share our content on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, now called X, and across other social media platforms. Thanks for deepening the conversation, Azu.
Thanks for having me.